I should spend more of my time thinking and less time shooting. So it was on a trip out to a nearby forest, well I say nearby, about an hour away, in Wales recently. I decided not to take my camera out of the bag and not even out the car until I was certain I'd got a few images that were worthwhile shooting. I thought if I go out and preview and leave the camera back at the car, not only will I find stronger images because I'll be less tempted to break out the camera, but I'm also unencumbered by the weight on my back. Walking around for an hour or two can get you down if you've got a big heavy camera bag. And so it was as I headed out. Well, it is wet and windy this morning and I want to take some photographs, but rather than take my camera gear with me into this forest, I'm going to do a bit of initial recce. You see, the thing is, I'm not totally certain what I want to shoot with today in terms of equipment, and whether it's colour or black and white. I've left that decision till I've made my scouting trip into these woods, and I think it will depend entirely on whether I find any decent compositions. I may not shoot anything, but I'm certainly not lugging that big heavy camera bag around for an hour and tiring myself out. So I'm just going to take a stroll for maybe half an hour or even an hour, and I'm going to use my usual little preview device, which is the iPhone coupled with the Mark II Artist Viewfinder, which is an excellent tool for assessing compositions without getting the camera out the bag, because obviously I'm going to shoot film. I have to have an idea of what the scene is going to look like and how it will render in black and white or colour, and this saves me a lot of money on materials. Now I was surprised just how relaxing this particular exercise was of walking around without my camera, so there was no temptation to set it up and take something that probably wouldn't work. I was prepared to be very, very picky, and that's what happened during the day. I was very, very fussy about the shots I took, and I ended up rejecting 99% of the things I looked at. I did try very hard to spot good material, but if it wasn't good enough, I certainly wasn't going to waste film on it. Well, I wasn't particularly struck by this using the naked eye. Might not look much on the GoPro either, but when I'm looking in over at these trees over here and some of these over here, they look very good on the preview device. I'll give you a quick look now at what I'm seeing with the Mark II Artist Viewfinder, and I actually think they look best in black and white, so I may go and get the Bronica, but I will need a brolly. Reason being, it is spitting with rain, and the Bronica isn't very good in rain. I've just had it repaired, so I think I will come back and make maybe just one shot. I'm going to do a bit more recceing first though before I get the gear. I don't want to be trigger happy taking multiple scenes. I just want to get the best of this location. Well, the rain's coming down very heavily now. I'm going to get absolutely soaked. So I think it's time to adjourn to the car and just review these images. Oh, in fact, it's time to run to the car and review these images. Well, that was definitely a case of good timing there. I've got absolutely soaked just running back in the last 20 yards or so. But now is a good opportunity while it's chucking it down to actually have a look at those images. Well, what I like about having this tool, this preview tool, is that obviously predominantly as a film shooter, I have difficulty pre-visualizing images in black and white. And what I got here is the ability to take my time at my leisure, scroll through some of these images. Now, there is some potential in these. I definitely got at least one, which is this one here of the tree, the tall tree in the centre of the rest of the foliage, and that's quite a nice composition. It's quite strong. I've also got close-ups of images like this here with just the fine tracery of branches and just the twigs in there, which is very nice. It's a bit more of an abstract actually. But also towards the end I came across these branches here, and I have shot these before by the way in colour, and I think that they do look reasonable in colour as well, although I'd have to do something with the composition there to get in on them, but definitely potential as soon as the rain stops. Well, I'm pleased to say not only has it cleared up in terms of rain, but there's a bit of light coming to the scene as well. Now that will mean a change potentially of composition, because what worked before may not work now, but I am hopeful if I can set myself up for the two images I've decided on based on my preview. As you can see, it's a lot nicer now. Just got to wait for this rain to stop, but I have got a small brolly which I can clamp to my tripod. As long as the wind's low, there'll be no camera shake. Now, as you can probably tell by the setup, I am not going to get the Bronica wet, even though now it's only showery. So, brolly in position, not too much wind, I won't get any camera shake with it, so let me just talk you through the composition and shot. By the way, I'm not going to be giving too many details about cameras in future videos because I've done that to death and everybody else does. I'm going to refer more to the focal lengths and the compositional aspects. All details about the camera I'm using will be in the description below in all the YouTube videos. So, without further ado, I have a short telephoto lens on the Bronica here, and I'm shooting with a black and white film XP2 Super, and I'm cropping in on the distant trees on the other side of this little pond here. It's quite straightforward. I've got f11 because my subject hasn't got any real depth to it, and f11 is going to give me a faster shutter speed and a little bit sharper as well. So this is my viewpoint, and as you can see, the trees I'm really interested in are this area here, and I'm using the tall tree to actually provide a counterpoint to this brighter foliage over here. It's quite straightforward, and I do think it'll work well once printed. It's just one of those simple shots which works well in the square format. Now, metering is quite straightforward for this scene because it's low contrast, it's not that bright today. So I don't have really harsh highlights or shadows to worry about. So half a second at f11 is giving me a good balance. The highlights are probably a stop or two higher than that, and the deepest shadow is maybe a stop lower. And I've got a yellow filter on there. Now, you don't have to have a yellow filter so much for this scene, but there is a little bit of green and some vestiges of autumnal colour in there. Now, that will lift those slightly, and it will allow them to separate slightly better. It'll make it easier to print later. Now, I am pleased with this shot. It is exactly how I envisage it coming out, although it did take a little bit of processing to achieve this look. I'm very pleased with the balance within the square frame. Now, there is a ton of detail in there. f11 on this lens is very sharp indeed, and all the fine twigs have come out perfectly. Now, something which you may, if you look at my photographs, notice quite a lot of is that I do tend to darken the corners. I had a vignette, and if the vignette's not strong enough, I'll actually do a bit of selective painting in of dark areas. So if you look at this result here, you'll notice the corners are a lot darker than the centre, and I've actually lightened the centre as well. That draws your eyes into the middle of the frame, which is exactly what I want you to see. Now, within literally seconds of taking that shot, the sun has broken through. And whilst it's very pleasant, it's actually spoiled some of the compositions I was looking at. So I think I will have to have a bit of a walk around the pond again. Some of the things that didn't work earlier may actually start to work now. To be honest, I'd be happy with just one more shot from this location before moving on. It's somewhere I can come to relatively easily, and there are a limited number of options, but I think another shot would just balance it out nicely. Well, quite a bit of time's passed actually. The sun was too bright for me here. I didn't like it. I tried to make compositions, but I couldn't. So after another brief rain shower and much darkening of the sky with cloud, I'm back out again to do another recce. We've got the heavy rain back again, so if I do shoot anything, it's going to have to be under trees because I need shelter from the wind. I mean, on an entirely practical note here, setting up the camera in this rain is quite tricky. And I am quite precious about my Bronica at the moment, to be honest. Well, it's surprisingly nice underneath this canopy of trees. If only I can find some way of shooting it and find a composition. The light is fantastic now with the rain, but the rain is then the problem. Well, I've gone back for the big camera. I'm not certain the ones I previewed are really right up there, but there's one or two which are close, and they're close enough. But if I come out again and it eases up with the rain a little bit and I just perfect those compositions, it could be well worth shooting. Well, I have been walking around for probably about an hour and a half. I have taken many preview shots, but I've not broken out the camera. There's just nothing good enough. There's plenty which are nearly there, but either the light's not right or my head's not right. So I may press on to another location, seeing as in the last 5 hours I have taken precisely one shot. So despite only getting the one image, as I did on a recent trip to Wales, I was pleased again. Now again, I was quite frustrated at first because I just got this one image after 5 or 6 hours walking around and actually driving around as well. But And I look back, I think to myself, okay, I didn't waste much film, I didn't take images that wouldn't work, and the nice thing is I've got some ideas for next time. Because I've got the preview images on my little phone and I can have a look at them whenever I like, I'm getting some ideas for some close-up shots in that location, and that will determine the equipment I take next time. And it'll also make me realise that that wet weather can be tackled, if you like, but possibly with a different camera, one which is a bit less expensive to repair, a bit less fickle in the rain. So, thanks as ever for watching, and I'll see you again soon.